In the Days of King Adobe, as told by Joe Hayes. Illustrated by Ute Simon. There once was an old woman who lived all alone in a tiny house at the edge of a village. She was very poor, and all she had to eat was beans and tortillas and thin cornmeal mush. Of course, she ate a few vegetables from her garden, but most of them she took into the village on market day to sell or trade for what little she needed for her simple life. But the old woman was very thrifty, and by saving carefully, a penny a day, a penny a day, she was able to buy herself a big ham. She kept it hanging from a hook in a cool, dark closet behind the kitchen, and she only cut a thin slice from the ham on very special days, or if she was lucky enough to have company join her for a meal. Thrifty. If you are thrifty, you save your money and buy only what you need. One evening, a couple of young men who were traveling through the country stopped at the old woman's house and asked if they could have lodging for the night. The old woman had no extra beds, but she offered to spread a blanket on the floor for the young men to sleep on. They said that would be fine and thanked the old woman for her kindness. "It's nothing," the old woman told them. "I'm happy to have the company. I'll get busy and make us all a good supper." She got out her pots and pans and then went to the closet and cut 3 slices from the ham, 2 thick, generous slices for the travelers, and a thin one for herself. The young men were delighted to see the old woman preparing ham for their supper. Seldom were they offered such good food in their travels. But those 2 young men were a couple of rascals, and right away a roguish idea came into their minds. They decided to steal the ham that night while the old woman was asleep. Generous. A generous amount of something is larger or more plentiful than is usual or necessary. After they had eaten their fill, the old woman spread out a bed for the young men on the floor. She said good night and wished them good dreams, and then went into her own room to sleep. Of course, the young men didn't go to sleep. They lay on the floor joking and talking about how nice it was going to be to have a whole ham to eat. When they felt sure the old woman was asleep, the young men got up and crept to the closet. They took the ham down from the hook and wrapped it in a shirt. One of the young men put the ham in his traveling bag. Then the 2 young men lay down to sleep with smiles on their faces. They had very good dreams indeed, but the old woman hadn't gone to sleep either. In the many years of her life, she had become a good judge of character, and she had noticed the rascally look in the young men's eyes. She knew she had better be on her guard. When she heard the young men getting up from their pad on the floor, she went to the door and peeked out. She saw everything the young men did. Later that night, when the young men were sound asleep, the old woman crept from her room. She took the ham from the traveling bag and hid it under her bed. Then she wrapped an adobe brick in the shirt and put it in the traveling bag. When the young men awoke in the morning, they were anxious to be on their way, but the old woman insisted they stay for a bite of breakfast. "It will give you strength," she told them. "You have a long day of walking ahead of you, and you may not have anything else to eat all day." Character. A person's character is the kind of person he or she is.
On the next slide, you're going to answer, what kind of relationship do the old woman and the travelers have, and how has that relationship changed since they first met to this point where we are now?